My ex-wife Cara and I share custody of our daughter Lily. She's 7. Bright, shy, the kind of kid who talks to bugs in the yard and names every stuffed animal she's ever owned. She has a stuffed rabbit called Mr. Buttons that she's had since she was 2. She takes it everywhere, to school, to the grocery store, to the dentist. The rabbit is filthy and missing an eye, but Lily treats it like it's made of glass. That's the kind of kid she is, gentle to her core. We split when Lily was 4. Nothing dramatic, just 2 people who stopped making sense together. Cara got the house. I got a 2-bedroom apartment 11 minutes away, a couch from IKEA that I assembled wrong and never fixed, and every other weekend. Wednesday dinners when our schedules allowed. For 3 years, the arrangement worked fine. Lily adjusted. Kids are resilient, or at least that's what the therapist told us during the divorce mediation, and I chose to believe it, because the alternative would have destroyed me. Lily seemed happy. She drew pictures constantly. Flowers, cats, stick figure families with me on one side and Cara on the other, connected by a rainbow or a row of hearts. Normal 7-year-old stuff. She'd taped them to the fridge at both houses, and every time I saw one, I felt that familiar ache in my chest. Half love, half guilt. Then about 6 weeks ago, Cara texted me a photo of one of Lily's drawings, and everything changed.
Look what our little artist made today, lol.
The drawing was done in crayon on wide-ruled notebook paper. It showed a person lying in bed, seen from above, like a bird's eye view. The figure was clearly meant to be me. Lily had drawn my beard, my glasses on the nightstand, even the blue sheets I use. The detail was remarkable for a 7-year-old. Every finger on both hands, the folds in the blanket, the way my mouth hangs open a little when I sleep, something Cara used to make fun of me for, something Lily couldn't possibly have seen unless she'd stood over me in the dark. What unsettled me was the perspective. The drawing was looking down at me. Not from the side of the bed, not from the doorway, from directly above, as if whoever was looking at me was hovering on the ceiling. I texted back, "Huh, she's getting really good. Where'd she draw this?" Cara replied,
It's cool. Her teacher said she spent the entire art period on just this one.
I stared at the picture for a while. Something about it made the skin on my arms prickle, but I told myself I was reading into it. Kids draw weird things. That's what kids do. My nephew once drew a picture of his teacher on fire, and nobody called the authorities. I saved the image and moved on with my day. 3 days later, Cara sent another one. Same composition, same bird's eye view, me in bed, sleeping. But this one had more detail. The nightstand had my phone on it, the charging cable snaking off the edge in exactly the way it does. I always knock it loose in my sleep. My bedroom door was drawn slightly open, a thin black gap between the door and the frame. And in the corner of the drawing, near the top, which from the perspective of the image meant near the ceiling, Lily had drawn 2 small circles. Just 2 little circles, close together, floating in an area she'd colored dark gray. I thought they were decoration at first, some kind of pattern or mistake, a child's afterthought. Then I zoomed in and realized they were eyes. I called Cara. "Hey, did Lily say anything about these drawings?"
What do you mean?
"The ones of me sleeping. Did she say why she keeps drawing them?"
She just likes drawing you. She misses you during the week, Ben. Don't overthink it.
"There are eyes in the corner. Did you see that?"
Eyes? Where?
"In the ceiling, near the top of the drawing. 2 circles with smaller circles inside them." Another pause, longer this time. I could hear the TV on in the background, some cartoon Lily watches.
I think those might just be like lights or something. Or smoke detector maybe. She's 7, babe.
"Don't call me babe."
Sorry. Force of habit.
I let it go. Cara was probably right. Kids draw circles. Circles are eyes, lights, moons, bubbles, nothing. I was projecting my own unease onto a child's artwork. But that night, when I went to bed, I couldn't stop looking at the ceiling. I left the bathroom light on and the door cracked, something I hadn't done since I was Lily's age. I lay there, watching the smoke detector blink its little green pulse, and tried to convince myself the ceiling was just a ceiling. It took me a long time to fall asleep. Over the next 2 weeks, Lily produced 11 more drawings of me sleeping. Cara sent me each one, sometimes with a comment, sometimes just the photo. She thought it was endearing, our daughter missing her daddy, channeling it into art. She didn't zoom in the way I did. She didn't notice the progression. But I noticed. All 13 drawings were from the same aerial perspective, all with increasing detail. My apartment's layout became more accurate with each drawing. The position of the dresser, the closet door, the window with the broken blind I'd never gotten around to fixing. In drawing number 5, she included the water stain on the ceiling above my bed, the one shaped vaguely like Florida. I'd never mentioned that stain to anyone. Details she shouldn't have known. Lily had been to my apartment dozens of times, sure, but she'd never been in my bedroom when I was sleeping. She goes to bed in her room, I go to bed in mine. She'd never seen my bedroom from that angle, and she certainly couldn't have observed the way my arm drapes over the edge of the mattress at 3 in the morning, which is exactly how she drew it in picture number 7. Right arm, fingers slightly curled, knuckles almost touching the carpet. And the eyes in the ceiling grew larger with every drawing. In each one, they were bigger, closer, more detailed. By the 8th drawing, they had distinct pupils, dark and dilated like someone staring in dim light. By the 10th, they had lids, heavy, half-closed lids, the kind you see on someone savoring a taste or a smell. By the 12th drawing, the eyes took up nearly a quarter of the ceiling space, and they had crow's feet, thin lines radiating outward from the corners, laugh lines or age lines drawn in precise brown crayon by my 7-year-old daughter. The 13th drawing was the one that made me pull the car over. In it, the eyes weren't on the ceiling anymore. They were just above my sleeping face, close enough to fog a mirror, and underneath them, Lily had drawn a mouth, open, wide, smiling. I picked Lily up for my weekend, and on the drive back to my apartment, I asked about the drawings as casually as I could manage. "Your mum showed me some of your art. They're really good, Lil." She was in the back seat, kicking her feet rhythmically against the seat in front of her.
Which ones?
The ones of me sleeping. Her feet stopped. "You drew a lot of them. I was just wondering what made you want to draw those." Silence for a few seconds. A truck passed us going the other direction, and Lily's eyes tracked it without interest. Then,
She told me to.
my hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Who told you?"
The lady.
"What lady, Lily?"
The lady in your ceiling.
The road blurred. My vision went grey at the edges, and I felt a wash of cold move through my body like I'd been dunked in ice water. I signaled and pulled to the shoulder. Gravel crunched under the tires. I put the car in park and turned around to look at her. She was staring out the window, her expression completely blank. Not scared, not playful, just flat. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap, resting on Mr. Button's. "Lily, what lady in my ceiling?"
She watches you sleep. She told me to draw it so you could see what she sees.
She said it the same way she'd tell me what she had for lunch. Matter of fact. Bored, almost. "Baby, there's no lady in my ceiling. You know that, right?" Lily looked at me, and for one terrible second her eyes seemed too large for her face, round and dark and knowing in a way that no 7-year-old's eyes should be. Then she blinked, and she was just my daughter again, small and soft and buckled into her car seat with a one-eyed rabbit on her lap.
Okay, Daddy.
She didn't bring it up again for the rest of the weekend. She was her normal self, playing with her toys on the living room floor, asking me to make mac and cheese the way she likes it with the extra butter, falling asleep on the couch during a movie I'd put on for myself. I carried her to bed and kissed her forehead and stood in the hallway outside her room for a long time, listening to her breathe, trying to convince myself there was nothing wrong. But that night, after I'd locked the front door and checked it twice and turned off every light except the bathroom, I lay in bed and could not close my eyes. The ceiling was just a ceiling, off-white paint, a water stain in one corner shaped like Florida, a smoke detector with its blinking green light. Nothing else. I stared at it for over 2 hours, studying every shadow, every imperfection in the paint, every hairline crack in the drywall. I stared until my eyes burned and the surface seemed to ripple like the skin of a pond. Eventually, exhaustion won, and I fell asleep. I woke up at 3:11 a.m. to the sound of Lily's door opening. The hinges on her bedroom door have a specific creak, a high, thin sound like a fingernail dragged slowly across glass. I've been meaning to WD-40 them for months. I heard that sound, and I was instantly awake, my heart slamming. Then I heard her footsteps, small bare feet on the hallway hardwood, soft, deliberate. Not the stumbling gait of a child who's half asleep and looking for the bathroom. These were careful, measured steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. They stopped outside my bedroom door. My door was open. I always leave it open when she stays over so I can hear her if she has a nightmare. "Lil? You okay?" No answer. Just the faint creak of the floorboard where someone was standing. "Lily, come here. Did you have a bad dream?" I sat up and reached for my phone to use as a flashlight. My fingers fumbled on the nightstand, knocked my glasses to the floor, finally closed around the phone. I turned on the flashlight and aimed it at the doorway. The hallway was empty. The floorboard was still. Nothing and no one. My heart was beating so fast I could feel it in my teeth. I got out of bed, walked down the hallway on legs that didn't feel like mine, and found Lily sound asleep in her room. Curled on her side, Mr. Buttons tucked under her chin, breathing softly. Her door was closed. I stood there watching her sleep, her small body rising and falling. So peaceful, so normal. I wanted to wake her up, hold her, ask her who the lady was and how she knew about the water stain and the broken blind and the way my arm hangs off the bed. But she looked so small and the questions felt so large and monstrous that I couldn't bring myself to do it. I went back to bed. I did not sleep for the rest of the night. Every sound the apartment made, the refrigerator cycling, the heat kicking on, a car passing outside, sounded like breathing. The following Monday, I got a call from Lily's school. Her teacher, Mrs. Adler, wanted to discuss some concerns. She was careful with her words, the way people are when they're trying not to alarm you while being very alarmed themselves.
Lily's artwork has become fixated. She draws the same image every day. A man sleeping in a bed, viewed from above. She's been producing 2 or 3 per art period, sometimes working through recess to finish them. She gets upset if we ask her to draw something else.
How upset?
She cried, quite intensely, and she said something a little unusual. She said she had to finish them because she doesn't have her own hands.
Mrs. Adler paused.
I'm sure it's just imaginative play, but combined with the repetition, we thought you and your ex-wife should be aware.
I thanked Mrs. Adler. I said the right words in the right order. I hung up. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my office for 30 minutes doing nothing, just sitting, staring at the dashboard, feeling something cold and formless settle in my stomach like a stone dropped into deep water. She doesn't have her own hands, so she uses Lily's. That evening I went back to my apartment and examined every inch of my bedroom ceiling. I brought the stepladder in from the utility closet, climbed up until my face was 6 inches from the drywall, and studied it like a crime scene. I knocked on the surface, listening for hollow spots, changes in resonance, anything that shouldn't be there. I ran my fingertips over the paint. I checked the attic access panel in the hallway closet, painted shut, untouched, a thick layer of dust over the seam that hadn't been disturbed in years. I pulled it open anyway, the paint cracking like a scab, and shined my flashlight into the crawl space above. Insulation, wires, dust, a few dead beetles, nothing else. I felt foolish. I was a grown man investigating his ceiling because of crayon drawings made by a 7-year-old. But then I noticed something. On the ceiling directly above my bed, in the off-white paint, there were 2 faint discolorations, slightly darker than the surrounding area, roughly circular, about 6 inches apart. I stared at them from the top of the stepladder. They were subtle, the kind of blemish you'd never notice if you weren't specifically looking for it. Could have been old water stains, moisture marks, shadows from the overhead light hitting an uneven patch of drywall. But they were directly above my pillow, and they were exactly 6 inches apart. I slept on the couch that night. I didn't sleep well, but I slept. The next time Lily came to stay, I set up a camera, one of those cheap Wi-Fi cameras with night vision that I bought at the electronics store during my lunch break. The cashier asked if I was setting up a baby monitor, and I said yes, because the truth wasn't something I could say out loud. I put it on my dresser, angled toward the ceiling above my bed. I felt ridiculous. I felt like the kind of person other people worry about, but I also felt like I had to. I tucked Lily in, read her Goodnight Moon, the same book she's loved since she was 3, kissed her forehead, told her I loved her. She said, "Love you too, Daddy," and rolled over and was asleep within minutes. The ease with which children surrender to sleep has always amazed me. I envied it now in a way I never had before. I went to my own room. I forced myself to lie in the bed, under the sheets, even though every nerve in my body was screaming at me to sleep somewhere else. The camera's tiny red light blinked on the dresser. I closed my eyes and thought about work, about baseball, about anything that wasn't the ceiling 6 feet above my face. Sleep came eventually. Not gently. It dragged me under like a current. I woke up at 3:14 a.m., not to a sound, to a feeling. Weight. Not on my body, but on the air above me. Like the atmosphere in the room had thickened, condensed, pressing down. The way the air feels right before a thunderstorm, electric, heavy, wrong, but concentrated in a column directly over my chest. I kept my eyes closed. I don't know why. Some instinct older than rational thought, older than language, told me not to open them. A voice from somewhere deep in the lizard part of my brain that still remembered being prey. My fingers found my phone under the pillow, and I gripped it like a lifeline. The pressure increased. Slowly, degree by degree, like someone turning up a dial. I could feel heat now, faint but real, radiating downward as if something warm were hovering inches above my face. And I heard breathing. Not mine. My breath was shallow and fast and trapped behind my teeth. This breathing was slow, deliberate, long, savoring inhalations and long, shuddering exhalations that trembled at the end, like someone trying to hold back laughter or sobs. I couldn't tell which, and not knowing was somehow the worst part. My body was rigid, every muscle locked and burning. I was convinced, not thought, not suspected, but knew that if I opened my eyes, I would see a face inches from mine, looking down at me with those heavy-lidded eyes from Lily's drawings. And if I saw that face, I would lose something. Not my life, something worse. My mind. My ability to function in the world as a sane person. I knew it the way you know you'll burn if you touch a flame. Not a thought, a certainty. The breathing came closer. I could feel moisture on my forehead, condensation from an exhale that wasn't mine, warm and damp and slightly sweet, like overripe fruit, like something decomposing. And then, a whisper, right against my ear. A woman's voice, but wrong, stretched thin and pulled apart, like a recording played at half speed. Each syllable lasted too long and buzzed at the edges.
She draws so beautifully.
I didn't scream. I couldn't. The sound died somewhere between my lungs and my throat and came out as a thin, high-pitched wheeze. The sound a small animal makes when a larger animal has it by the neck. Then the pressure vanished. The warmth was gone. My bedroom was just my bedroom, cold, still, empty. The refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. A car passed outside, its headlights sweeping across the wall. I didn't move for 20 minutes. I lay there with my eyes closed, at my phone in a death grip, counting my heartbeats, waiting for the warmth to come back. When I finally opened my eyes, the ceiling was just a ceiling, off-white, water stain, smoke detector. But the two discolorations seemed darker than before. I grabbed the camera and took it to the living room. I sat on the couch in the dark and pulled up the footage on my phone. My hands were shaking so violently it took me 3 attempts to open the app. I scrubbed to the timestamp, 3:14 a.m. The night vision showed my bedroom in that washed-out grey-green that makes everything look like a morgue. I could see myself in bed, motionless under the covers. The ceiling was visible above me, a flat expanse of nothing. At 3:14, the footage glitched. Just for a moment, a single frame of distortion. A vertical tear through the image, like reality itself had stuttered. I backed up, played it again, frame by frame. In that one corrupted frame, there was something on the ceiling. I couldn't make out details. The image was smeared, distorted, like something had interfered with the signal. But there was a shape pressed flat against the drywall directly above my bed. Large. Limbs splayed outward like a spider, head positioned directly over mine. And in the center of the shape, where a face would be, 2 pale circles, wide and wet, looking straight down at me. The next frame was normal, empty ceiling, me in bed, nothing. I went back to the corrupted frame and took a screenshot, enlarged it until the pixels fell apart into meaningless squares of gray and green. The shape was too distorted to identify clearly, but the eyes were unmistakable, and they weren't just looking at me. They were adoring me. The expression around them, the creases in the distortion, the curve of what might have been cheeks, conveyed a tenderness so absolute and so wrong that it made my stomach heave. The way a mother gazes at a newborn, the way a predator watches prey it has decided not to kill yet, because the watching is sweeter than the catching. I didn't go back to bed. I sat on the couch until the sky turned grey, and then I carried Lily, still sleeping, to the car. I drove to Kara's house and rang the bell until she answered in her robe, squinting at the early light. I told her everything. The drawings, the eyes on the ceiling, Lily's words, the camera footage, the voice. She thought I was having a breakdown. Honestly, standing there in her doorway at 6 in the morning with my daughter asleep over my shoulder and my eyes wild from a night of no sleep, I wasn't sure she was wrong. She took Lily inside. She told me to see a doctor. I did see a doctor. The doctor referred me to a therapist named Dr. Kessler, who had an office that smelled like lavender and had one of those white noise machines outside the door. She listened to everything I said without interrupting, which I appreciated. And then she told me I was likely experiencing hypnagogic hallucinations, vivid sensory experiences at the boundary between sleep and waking, exacerbated by stress and the unresolved guilt of the divorce. She said the camera glitch was almost certainly a compression artifact, She said children often externalize parental anxiety and that Lily's drawings were her way of processing my absence. She said the phrase, "she doesn't have her own hands," was typical of a child creating an imaginary friend with limitations, a way of feeling needed. She prescribed something for sleep, trazodone, small dose. I nodded along to all of it. I wanted to believe her. I took the prescription to the pharmacy and I took the pill that night, and I slept 8 hours without dreaming. I went back to the apartment. I slept in the living room for 3 nights. Nothing happened. No sounds, no pressure, no warmth. I started to think Dr. Kessler was right. Stress, guilt, an overactive imagination fed by my daughter's art. I even laughed about it once, sitting on the couch eating cereal, looking at the bedroom door like it owed me an apology. On the 4th night, I made myself sleep in the bedroom. I told myself the therapy was working. I took the trazodone. I turned off the lights and lay in the bed and stared at the ceiling and said out loud, "There's nothing there." I felt stupid saying it, but I also felt better. I fell asleep within 30 minutes. I woke up at 3:14 a.m. This time the pressure was already there. Heavy, immediate, suffocating, like waking up under a weighted blanket I didn't own. The warmth on my face, the slow, deliberate breathing above me. But there was something new. A sound. Directly above me, maybe an inch from the drywall, a soft, rhythmic scraping, like fingernails being dragged slowly across the ceiling's surface, back and forth, back and forth. Patient, deliberate, the way you'd stroke a pet. The trazodone made my limbs feel like sand. I couldn't move even if I wanted to. I just lay there, paralyzed by chemistry and terror, and listened to the scraping. And the voice again. Closer now, intimate, directly above my face. So close I could feel the words on my skin.
She's almost finished.
The scraping stopped. The pressure lifted. I was alone. The next morning, in the grey light of dawn, I stood on the stepladder and looked at the ceiling above my bed. The 2 discolorations were gone. In their place were grooves. Shallow, curved grooves scratched into the paint and the drywall beneath it. Not stains, physical marks. I could feel them with my fingertips. Rough, deliberate indentations forming 2 unmistakable shapes. 2 eyes, lids half closed, looking down. I called Kara. "I need to talk to Lily, right now."
Ben, it's 7 in the morning and she's eating breakfast.
"Now, Kara, please." I heard shuffling, the clatter of a spoon being set down, and then Lily's sleepy voice.
Hi, Daddy.
"Lily, the lady in the ceiling. I need you to tell me everything about her. Please, this is important." A long pause. I could hear her breathing. Then, very quietly,
I'm not supposed to.
"Not supposed to what?"
Talk about her when she's listening.
I looked at my ceiling. The grooved eyes stared back at me with all the patience in the world. "Is she listening now?"
She's always listening in your room, Daddy. That's her room now, too. She says she chose it a long time ago.
My mouth was dry. My hand holding the phone was trembling. "Lily, what does she look like? Have you seen her?" Another pause. When Lily spoke again, her voice had changed. It was quieter, more careful, each word chosen with the precision of a child who knows exactly what she's saying and wishes she didn't.
She looks like Mommy, but wrong. Her arms are too long, and her mouth is too big, and she doesn't blink. She says she's been watching you for a very long time, since before I was born, since before you and Mommy lived together. She said she's been very, very patient. She said she loves the way your eyes move under your eyelids when you dream.
I couldn't speak.
She says that's how she knows what you're dreaming about. She watches your eyes move and she can see the dream through them like a window. She says she's been watching your dreams for years, Daddy. She says your dreams are beautiful.
"Lily,"
Daddy? She says to tell you that soon she won't have to watch through the ceiling anymore. She said she's almost through.
Through what, Lily?
Through the ceiling, Daddy. She's been pushing for a very long time. Every night, just a little bit more. She said the cracks are almost big enough.
Big enough for what? Lily's voice dropped to barely a whisper.
Big enough to come down.
I hung up. My hand was shaking so badly the phone clattered on the stepladder's metal top. I looked at the ceiling directly above my bed. The two grooved circles, the eyes, were deeper than they'd been 10 minutes ago. I was sure of it. The paint was flaking at their edges, tiny curls of off-white drifting down onto my pillow like dead skin. And between them, stretching downward, a new mark had appeared. A thin, curved groove in the drywall, arcing down and then up again at both ends. A smile. I moved out of the apartment that same day. I didn't pack. I grabbed my wallet, my keys, my phone charger, and I left. I didn't lock the door behind me. I didn't care. I drove for an hour, checking the rearview mirror every 30 seconds, though I didn't know what I expected to see. I checked into a motel, the kind of place that takes cash and doesn't ask questions, the kind of place where the bedspread smells like bleach and the Bible in the nightstand drawer has phone numbers written in the margins. That was 9 hours ago. I've been sitting at the table in this room, a small table bolted to the floor, the kind you can't move, trying to write this down, trying to make it make sense on a screen the way it refuses to make sense in my head. I haven't slept. I'm afraid to sleep. The trazodone is back at the apartment, and I wouldn't take it now even if I had it. I need to stay awake. I need to keep my eyes open. Because 2 hours ago I got a text from Kara's phone. But it wasn't from Kara. It was a photo, a new drawing, Lily's crayon on notebook paper. The same bird's eye perspective, a man lying in a bed, but not in an apartment this time, in a motel room. The drawing showed the bolted down table, the pattern on the bedspread, the one I'm looking at right now, the ugly diamond pattern in brown and gold. The Bible in the nightstand drawer, a detail she couldn't know because I only noticed it 30 minutes ago when I opened the drawer looking for a pen. The digital clock on the nightstand showing a time that hadn't happened yet, 3:14. And the ceiling above the man in the drawing was wrong. It was cracked. Not a clean break, but a jagged, organic split, broken apart like an eggshell from the inside, with long, dark arms reaching down through the gap. The arms were impossibly thin and impossibly long, the fingers spread wide, each one ending in a point. They were inches from the man's sleeping face. The eyes from the ceiling were gone, because they weren't on the ceiling anymore. They were attached to a body that was lowering itself down through the broken plaster, hair hanging, mouth stretched open in that terrible smile. They were in the room. I stared at the drawing for a long time. Lily had drawn every detail perfectly. The bolted table, the bedspread pattern, the Bible, the crack in the bathroom mirror that I noticed when I washed my face. But she'd drawn something else, something I haven't seen yet, something I'm terrified I will. On the wall behind the headboard, behind the man's sleeping head, there were words, scrawled in something dark, in a handwriting that wasn't a child's, angular, sharp, pressed hard enough to tear the paper. Don't open your eyes. I got up from the table. I walked to the bed. I looked at the wall behind the headboard. It was blank, just faded wallpaper with a water stain near the ceiling. I almost felt relief. Almost. Then I noticed the water stain. It was new. I'm sure it was new because I looked at that wall when I checked in and there was nothing there. But now, there it was, directly above the headboard. A dark, wet patch, roughly circular, spreading slowly outward. And next to it, 6 inches to the right, another one. The same size, the same shape, spreading at the same rate. 2 circles, 6 inches apart. I'm sitting at the table now. I can hear something above me, a soft, slow creak in the ceiling, the kind a building makes when something heavy shifts its weight. It's been going on for the last 15 minutes, regular, rhythmic, like breathing. The lights flickered a moment ago, just once, just enough. I'm going to keep them on. I'm going to keep my eyes open. I'm going to sit at this bolted-down table and stare at the ceiling and not blink. But I'm so tired. My eyes are burning. The words on this screen are starting to blur and swim, and the stains on the ceiling are bigger now. I can see lids forming around them, heavy, half-closed, patient. Whatever she is, she doesn't need the old ceiling anymore. She doesn't need my apartment. She found me the way she's always found me. She followed the thing she's been watching for years. She followed my sleep. And I don't think I can stay awake much longer. She's been patient. She's been so patient. And now she's almost through. And I don't know what to do anymore.